So let's talk about number 22, Caitlin Clark from the University of Iowa, who has led the Hawkeyes again this year to a top 5 ranking. Now, I'm going to show you some of the comments that I got because I said that Caitlin Clark is the best men's or women's college basketball player. Now, can you name any men's players right now in the college game? Now, I was on the men's side for 15 years. I follow men's basketball as close, if not closer, than I do the women's side, and I follow the women's game very closely. Okay, Zach Edey. Is Zach Edey a transformational player? And I can probably only name one other, Hunter Dickinson, only because he used to play at Michigan. But let's talk about Caitlin Clark. Let's compare her on some level to Steph Curry. Now, if we want to talk about transformational players in the last 20 years on the women's side, who do we have? I mean, is Kelsey Plum a transformational player? There's no shade against any of these women's players because I love watching women's basketball, and Kelsey Plum has evolved and reinvented herself, and she's literally amazing. She's got receipts, and one of the best college players of all time. Now, do we remember Kelsey Plum as being one of the best college players of all time? People that are in the know, who have followed college ball for a long time, sure. But are you drawing the person who's not normally following the sport? Are you getting men in the media, some of the most famous men like Stephen A. Smith and others, to talk about you? A lot. People across the board are talking about Caitlin Clark a lot. Now, we won't know for a long time if she goes down as the greatest college basketball player in the history of the game. To me, it's not even comparable. There's been a lot of great women's players. But when we're talking about transformational players, when we're talking about a Magic Johnson or a Larry Bird in the 80s, when we're talking about Michael Jordan in the 90s, has there been anyone since? LeBron? No. Steph Curry. Now, Steph Curry did a lot of this stuff in college. He never got the accolades because he was from the University of Davidson. What Caitlin Clark is doing, forget about her game, is unbelievable for young girls and women out there. And now let me show you some of the comments. I don't mean to laugh at these comments, but I think some people misunderstood what my point was. She's literally the most dominant college basketball player and maybe the most dominant college player of any sport right now, including football. Now, if you want to go and look at the video that's in question, this is the one that I'm referring to. Now, this is the first person that missed the boat on why I made this post in the first place. But if you've not watched Val Whiting, check her out. I am Coach Val. She talks a lot about the differences between the men's and the women's game and why it's just a ridiculous argument to, on most levels, compare the men's and women's players. Anyway, so here's the first one. And you can see the one down there where they say that I'm of my meds. That was one of my favorites. Yeah, there it is again, in case you missed it. I did respond to that one as well. Oh, but how about the other one? The point at the shirt was so cringe. So you can see right here, I'm pointing at the shirt. I don't understand why that's cringe. But I guess to that person, that's cringe. Maybe it's my look or my shirt that says Bet on Women. Shout out to Breaking Tea, who sells that shirt if you're interested in getting that shirt. But, yeah, I don't understand that one unless you're just a troll trying to get clout. So shout out to Crystal, showing love for the Hawks. Short for the Hawkeyes, the Iowa Hawkeyes. That's their mascot. That's the funniest thing that have ever heard. Pass behind the back, third graders do that. Wow, first girl to do that, typical. Now, I've watched a lot of highlights of men's college basketball games this year. I've never seen once this year, now maybe it's happened, where a men's player is crossing the street like Caitlin was in this video that I showed with this one highlight, looked to the opposite corner, and dropped a dime behind her back on the same side of the street that she came from, and her teammate finished. I haven't seen that exact play on the men's side once this year, but let's leave it to a third grader to be able to execute that pass in the Big Ten. when you're double and triple teamed every single game. I think you're spot on with that one. Nice comment. So love this one. She averages 30 points, 7 rebounds, and almost 8 assists per game, and shoots nearly 50%. Look at the bottom one. There's no way she averages 6 points. And again, I'll go back to what men's college basketball players are people talking about. Zach Edey, and that's it. No one's talking about anybody else, and nobody cares. And it's no shade on Zach Edey. He's a good player. Could it be Tim Duncan one day? Great. But he's not going to transform the game. And there's not one person on the men's or women's side, it's not even close to who you could say is the best men's or women's college basketball player right now. I love Paige Beckers. She is making everyone better on her team after several players are out with injuries. Juju Watson is the main reason Coach Gottlieb is an amazing coach. Why USC only has 1 loss this season. Who's the only other player you can name on the men's side? LeBron James's son, Bronny. And the only reason you're naming him, he may be the 100th best player in college basketball, but you can only name him because he's LeBron James's son. That's it. If you're being fully honest about the situation, Caitlin Clark, whether you're a supporter or a fan of men's or women's college basketball, Caitlin Clark comes into your head first when you are thinking about who are the best college basketball players right now in the game. Then we can talk about whether or not she is the GOAT of women's college basketball. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about one other component to all of this. The ratings that have gone up in women's sports across the board, and namely women's college basketball. And if you don't think that Caitlin Clark has a direct impact on that, then you are completely in denial. And look at the attendance for not just home games. Look at the attendance for the road games. Go ahead, Google it. What she does on the road is unbelievable. I don't think I've ever seen anything like it before, ever on the women's side. So there's that part too. And when you get other fans cheering for you, rooting for you, man, that speaks for itself. Like they're literally coming to the games for Caitlin Clark. Why do you think that is? It's called the Caitlin Clark effect, and it's unprecedented. And I've never seen anything like it in my entire life. It's unbelievable. I love Angel Reese. And there's a lot of other amazing players. Alyssa Pilley from the University of Utah, who transferred from USC. Can you imagine USC if they had her? Oh my God. Anyways, stop trolling. Stop throwing microaggressions out there. Offer some sort of inspiration, motivation, or education. Something to show love for the unbelievable evolution of the women's game and the women's players. And how amazing Caitlin Clark is, not only for her team, but for all the girls and women out there. It's about Title IX. Do I think Iowa's going to win the national championship? No. Colorado's really good. Can you imagine being at Colorado right now with Deion Sanders and the women's basketball team being ranked in the top 5? Man, that would be so much fun to be a part of. But I think South Carolina and Dawn Staley, leading her team, are going to win it all again. But my dark horse is Kansas State, who is the only team to beat Iowa this year, led by Ayoka Lee. And they could make their first Final Four in the history of the program. So enjoy the rest of the college basketball season, because there's no tournament like March Madness. I can't wait. Much love, even to all the haters out there. This is much more than a jersey. Go Blue.